Why do you think I'm introduced by the name of Juan Antonio Negroni?
It sounds cool.
It sounds cool. What do you think?
Maybe to show where you're from.
Maybe to show where I'm from? What else? Alex? You know what? That is my name. Isn't that odd? It is my name. It is my name. No. Up until when I graduated from St. Francis, I was John Negroni. On my baptismal certificate, it says Juan Antonio Negroni Fratiselle de la Casa. I was born in Cuba, and I didn't speak English till I was about 5 years old. I use it for, who said cool? You're kind of on it. One of the things I believe in terms of getting ahead, and by the way, everything we're going to talk about is ethically. I'm assuming that that nobody is thinking in terms of, what's his name, Greco, the guy who... I'm not talking about that. Anything we're going to talk about has to do with ethics. You know, let's assume that. But there are certain things you can do in life to move forward. And I believe one of the things that you can do is to make yourself apart from the crowd. When people hear me being introduced as Juan Antonio Negroni, or when I introduce myself to some employees as I go around the country, and I say Juan Negroni, what do you think the first thing they say to me? Spanish employees mostly. But they say more than that. They say, but you're white. And I said, well, I am white. He said, no, you're really, really white. And he said, well, I am really, really white. What I am trying to do with this, and it doesn't matter whether it's people who don't have the good fortune of you to be going to school, individuals who are professionals. I've had PhDs saying to me, how come your name is Juan? And then I said, well, what were you thinking? He said, well, and I said, because you think I'm white, right? But seriously, so the point of my being introduced is a critical point in terms of getting ahead. You got to differentiate yourself from others, okay? You have to differentiate yourself from others. Do you think anything that you do is different from others?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, what might it be?
I collect coins, currency, swords, maps, a whole bunch of other stuff.
How is that going to help you in terms of your interviews or getting ahead?
I have a broader knowledge of history than most people.
You have a broader knowledge of history than most people. Anybody else? What's unique about you? I'm willing to wager that each of you sat down and thought about yourselves, okay, that you each would have something that's unique about yourselves. And my idea is you have to promote that. You have to promote that. As you have to promote many things. Now, traditionally, when someone talks about careers, they'll come over and they'll talk about your resume and by the interview. Have you had that already? Yeah, have a good resume, okay, and etc. So the approach I'm taking today is a little bit different. What I've done is come up with 20 items on here. You can ask me questions about any of these items or anything else that you want, okay? But I'm not going to talk about having a good resume, although I believe the resume as we know it is dead. I think the selfies and the videos, people are underusing videos in promoting themselves. I really believe that's the future. I don't know, is anybody here using video to promote them? You are? You're smart. You're using the skills and talents that you have, and so that is very smart. So what I'm saying to you is think about yourselves, think of what makes you different from other individuals, and promote that. And I don't know to what extent that has been covered. Okay, so again, anything you want to ask me, please. Now, as you look on here, let me look at the first one, and then after that you can pick. What do you think about I mean by creating occasions of opportunities? It's a phrase I coined about 10 years ago. And I know it's impacted people because my son-in-law can still refer to it. He'll say, oh yeah, creating occasions of opportunities. What do you think I mean by that?
Maybe like
using the resources that are around you and you already possess? Okay, great. Interesting. If you're ever presenting to a group, that's another technique to use. I wrote down all your names. And no, but seriously, you go into a classroom and you want to connect with the individual, that is a quick way. I have everybody's name. Wait a minute, I know your name over there. That's Paulette, of course. Yes, Ashley, you're absolutely right. Here's what I think, and it's closely to what you're saying. I think what happens, people don't take the extra step, okay? They live a pattern of life, and they don't get outside of their comfort zone. I'm a believer in that you should join as many things as you can, okay? Get involved in as many activities, and sometimes they may not relate to you, okay? They may not relate to what you believe. I have an individual that I know, Alan Weiss. He's a very well-known consultant. He makes millions of dollars a year. I don't make millions of dollars a year. And here's what he says. I belong to this group, and I paid $100 a year for 10 years. Okay? I got one assignment from them. What do you think that assignment paid him? $100,000. So what I'm saying to you, as you are going forward, think of the different avenues that you can get yourself involved in. All right? Obviously, not to the extent that you can't do anything, but if you get involved in as many possibilities as possible, it's incredible what happens. It multiplies. My background primarily now is in labor relations. I do coaching, I do focus groups, and I do more work in Spanish than I do in English. I left a position because I wanted to go on my own. I ended up doing volunteer work for the I Have a Dream Foundation. Through them, that led me to someone else, and that led me to connect with the people that I'm mostly associated with in the work that I do. Would never have happened if I had not been involved in that I Have a Dream Foundation. Now, I'm not saying that you should go to the extent of being doing it only for your own good. I was really interested in helping the minority kids because I am a minority. But it led me to other things. So, and what I'm saying to you in terms of getting ahead as you go forward, and by the way, it's not that you're just doing it for you to get ahead. I'm sure you get pleasure out of what you do. I've gotten great pleasure in working with kids. I've gotten great pleasure in working at the soup kitchens. But at the same time, you're getting something back also. So I don't want it sound that I don't want it to sound as if we're so materialistic that that's the only reason you do it for. Because if that's the only reason you do it for, what will happen?
Nothing good will come of it.
Or people will know. People will know that you're doing it just for that purpose as opposed to because you really want to help. But if you help others, invariably help you. I believe, as I look back to my life, this whole issue of creating occasions of opportunity is one of the most significant things that I've done in my life. And I kind of stumbled into it. And so I would suggest to you, you all are graduating in June, or who's graduating in June? Anybody graduating in June? You're juniors? Mostly juniors? Freshmen, Kirsten. And you're here, very good. You're starting out early, eh? You're trying to... So that's a very strong point that I believe, creating occasions of opportunity. You won't see it in most resume books, but that's my perspective. Now, let's go through this. Anybody else? You look at the things that, by the way, I put some quotes on the back. You notice I put down quotes on the back, quotes for doing. I didn't put down quotes for success. What do you think I put down quotes for doing?
Action leads to success.
Absolutely. You want to come up here and help me, Edward? You're pretty good. No, it's you have to take action. You can't just say, well, I think I'm going to do this today, or I think I'm going to do this. How many times does that happen? You need to act. So what I did, I took some quotes, and I collect quotes. Paulette knows that I collect many quotes. And I took quotes, and they all have to do with actions. All right, so look at the back, and let me go to number 2, and then you guys, because what do you think I mean by the 80-20 proposition? Who is your closest friend?
And that would be my friend from high school, Matthew.
Okay, is he perfect?
No, nobody's perfect.
Are you perfect?
Hell no.
Okay. Is your husband perfect? It's on tape. What's his name? Craig, if you listen to this, you better be careful as to what your wife says. Is your husband perfect? No, but none of us are perfect. See, but what happens very often, we make judgments by other people in our relationships. In work, for instance, you go to work and you have a boss that's not all that great, and what happens often in relationships, and I think this applies to the business world, you have to look at the better part of an individual. Okay? I say that if the other individual is 80% okay, it's okay with me because nobody's perfect. And I say to myself, well, I'm not 80% perfect. I say this to my wife often. You know what I say to my wife? Look, darling, you were 68% today. But fortunately, you were 95% yesterday, so I'm going to average it out and give you a break. The point I'm making to all of this is that none of you like that. Try it on your girlfriend or your mom. You have a girlfriend? You have a girlfriend? You do?
Yeah.
All right. Just tell us, what's her name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Not this Ashley. No. Okay. Ashley. Well, I don't know. Ashley, you know, you're okay, but today, and I'm going to give you a break on my 80-20 thing because it averages out to 90. But really, that's the way you have to look at it. Because if you start making judgments about other people in the business world, I've seen this happen. Oh, my boss is this, my boss is that, and it just becomes a diatribe, you know. And the truth of the matter is that you may not be 80%. So I think as you go through life and as you do work, make sure that you know that you're not 100% or 80%. And accept the fact that 80% is okay. That's what I do for myself. And it's made my marriage, I've been married, how long do you think I've been married? To the same person.
32 years?
47 years. Yeah, 47, to the same person. But when somebody asks me that question, you know what I do? If it's in the presence of my wife, I'll put my arms around my wife and I'll look at her in the eye and look at the person who asked me the question. I'll say, honey, not long enough. So there's another. You can use that with Ashley too. So Ashley, how long are you, Steve? How long have you and Ashley been going?
Long time.
No.
Not long enough.
Not long enough. It's about building relationship, man. Yeah, it's a life lesson here. But so the 80-20 rule, you're like, the 80-20 rule is very important, and you can add the Pareto to that too. But I learned that from a woman called Glenna Salisbury, and that's what she talks about. She's a speaker. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association, and she always talks about the 80-20 rule. So I'm giving her credit. It's not I didn't come up with the idea, but I think about it often. I think about it in relationships, and that's important because getting ahead has a lot to do with relationships. And you may subconsciously act differently to different people. My wife is Italian, okay? Her name is Italia, okay? When we were younger, notice, I didn't say younger, older. I would notice that when she interacted with her family, she went into a different mode. The hands, no, Italian, she used the hands. You're not Italian, are you? No. So she acted totally different, okay, in that type of a setting. Was she being inauthentic? No. She was talking about what you were talking about, okay? You respond differently to different people. I don't think that's an issue of being inauthentic. That's just your. But I think what Edwards was talking about was a little bit different from that. I think you were saying how much of yourself should you reveal? Is that what I understood you to say? What do you think of his question? Well, how much of yourself should you reveal? That happens with clients. You know, you deal with an array of clients, okay? And with some clients, you have a working relationship. It never goes beyond the surface. And with others, it's a much deeper relationship. But I don't know if this will answer your question. I can only talk to you about what I do. I try to be truthful in everything that I do. I'm an outgoing person, okay? That's my personality. I can't help it. I get into an elevator and I start talking to people and my wife looks at me and says, please keep quiet. Are you going to talk? I mean, that happens all the time. That is my personality. Other personalities, like my son-in-law tends to be very reserved. He's very quiet. I've tried to help him get him out of his comfort zone. He's helped. When we were first married, when he and my daughter were first married, we were at a Best Buy store, okay? And I had a blue polo shirt and khaki pants. And all the employees, yeah, exactly. So you know what I did? I went around kidding the people. I said, by the way, my name is so-and-so. I'm from the regional vice president from the area. What's going on? I even did it to the general manager, and he bought into it. So, okay, now that's going beyond. But what I was trying to prove to my son-in-law is that sometimes you have to come out of your shell. Now, I came way out of my shell. I don't recommend that you go around doing that. But Edward, I would not change your personality, because if you feel that you're reclusive, you couldn't strike a conversation. Well, maybe that's something you need to work on. I'm not suggesting you change your personality, because then you will come across as being a fake or unreal. But there are things you can do to help you come out of, that reclusiveness.
It's not like the first time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to.
Well, your conscious is. This is not a forum where I can, tell you specifically what to do. But I think if you work on it, get some help from some people, you can improve. Don't ever be something you're not. Okay? Don't ever be, because that comes across as unreal. That's the worst thing you can do. But let me just say this. Although you say I'm engaging, and some people have said that, I don't reveal a lot about myself. I tried to put the emphasis on the other individual. For instance, I have 5 grandchildren. I carry photographs with them. I never show that to people. I'm more interested in what the other person has to say. Okay? That's my perspective. I am more interested in what the other person has to say than in what I have to say. So yes, I'm engaging and I talk to individuals, but the asking of questions it's a great, if you start asking questions, people will open up. So maybe that's one way of doing it, Edward, until you get a little bit more comfortable. There's a point in here, and I forget where it is. It talks about asking, your listening versus your asking quotient. Do most of us ask questions? What do we most do in listening?
I tend to ask a lot of questions.
You tend to ask a lot of questions. Do you?
I observe.
You observe. Let me ask you, all of you who have said this, is that how you really are, or is that how you think you might want to be? Because I've had that answer given to me by many people, and then I see them in action, totally different. The family situation. I come from a fairly large... There's no one in my family who I consider a true listener. I'm serious. The true listeners that I know are this individual who barely got out of high school. He's always asking questions. He's married to my wife's cousin, okay? Always asking questions. I know a lawyer who lives in Long Island, who was a friend of my mother-in-law. He always asks questions. It's very rare. I have a friend that I met in college, after we got out of college, at the new school. So there are 3 people that I can tell you that will really ask questions and listen to an answer rather than what? Being ready to rebut it in your mind. Guys and ladies, getting ahead, that's an important point, because people don't listen. But it's knowing that you're really asking the question and listening. Edward, to get back to you, because I thought you asked a very good question. Ask questions and listen. By the way, on here, I put my personal email. Okay, at the top, I made a mistake and left an N out. It's Juan Negroni 12 at Gmail. As you go forward, if you have any questions that you'd like to, ask me, please just send me an email. And if it requires a conversation over the phone, I'll be happy to do it. Well, you know what? Use your friends to help you. The buddy system. It works! It worked when I was in my 20s and it works today. Seriously, ask your friends. Hey, how am I coming? They can help you. They can help you. But the fact that you asked the question, I think, is critical. I give you a lot of credit for that. Okay. What other questions on there would you like me to? By the way, there's a book by, I put The Soul's Code, Your Uniqueness, Cultivating Your Core. That has something to do with being authentic. Have you ever heard of the book, The Soul's Code by James Hilton? He uses, I can't remember the Greek word, that we all have a calling. There's something about us, each of us, that makes us who we are. And when we try to be something else, things go wrong. So here I am, St. Francis College, okay? I wasn't a great student, by the way. I was an average student. Here we are in second year sophomore, and I took accounting, got an A in it. I didn't like it. Did not like it. So here we are in intermediate. Anybody an accountant here? You're in a, who's an have you had intermediate accounting? I'm not liking intermediate accounting. Listen, I graduated in '64, a long time ago. Anyway, so I'm struggling with this, okay? And I go up to Professor Schwartz and I say, look, Professor Schwartz, I don't think accounting is for me. I was an accounting major. Guess what he says? You're right. My world might have come apart, but it did not. But what he did was reaffirm that that's not what I was good at. And that was the end. And I'm not a good accountant. My wife is outstanding. I'm not. But I knew that wasn't a path for me to follow. Okay? So sometimes you have to be careful of what you're following. Working on your shortcomings, not always a good idea. Do you have shortcomings or that you like to correct?
Of course.
Let's keep, I don't mean personal. From a business perspective, does anybody have any shortcomings? Remember, in the future, if you guys go into the business world, and you're all business students, are you not? You're going to have people working for you, and you have to trust to a certain extent. And if you don't trust someone and they don't do a good job, you give them a chance to correct them, okay? And if after that they don't correct, what do?
Fire them.
Well, I call it making them available to industry at large. I'd rather use that term rather than, you like that already? Making them available to industry at large, but you have to make a decision. But here's the point. Who's musically inclined here? Okay, who's not musically inclined? Julia and Kirsten and James. You're not. I love music. I'm telling you, one of the two greatest classes that I took at St. Francis, one of them was by Nicholas Fiorenza, who was, I knew nothing. I grew up in Spanish Harlem, okay? I knew nothing about operas. I knew nothing. He showed me a whole different world, okay? Now, I thought I was going to be a pianist. Well, I stink. I should have known that from my high school days when the professor who taught music, hit me once with a stick. I was so bad. Let me tell you how bad I was. I wanted to be in the St. Patrick's Parade, and they let me march in the St. Patrick's Parade with a trumpet, but I didn't play. At one of the graduations at Hunter College for St. Francis, I was in the band. I didn't play. I was bad, but I love music. My daughters are so musically inclined. Here's the point. Should I have been spending my time on improving my ability to play an instrument? Was I wasting my time if I didn't have the skills?
Time you enjoy isn't wasted. So if you enjoyed it, then I wouldn't say.
No, I got some bare knuckles. Well, you're right. But as much as I enjoyed it, I decided that wasn't something that I was going to excel at. It's just like the accounting. Here's my point, folks, and I strongly believe in this, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. If you go into the business world and you're not good at something, you're not good at, let's say, accounting, all right? But you're good at something else. Hire someone to help you with the accounting. Hire Julia, and Kirsten. Hire Kirsten, okay? No, I know you're Julia, she's Kirsten. Hire Kirsten, okay, to help you with it. I think I see too many people wasting time on a skill that they're not going to be good at ever. Well, wait a minute. If you're good at it, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Then listen, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. You've heard that expression? I think it was Churchill who said that.
Yeah.
Was it Churchill? Am I right? I haven't heard that use that in a long time. If you love something, I love what I do. I'm a labor relations consultant. I go throughout the country. I try to determine what people are thinking, speak to them, offer advice to companies as to what they can do to make their employees more productive, engaged. I love that. I mean, they don't have to pay me for that. Now, if you put me into an accounting office or you put me into math, I'd be a waste. It would drive me insane. So, if anybody here loves to do something and you're good at it, you should explore it. You should explore it. I wouldn't discount it. I can't tell you whether the market is right for that or not. The reason why I asked that question, writing is my passion. I've written many, in fact, I've written a few things that I've sent to Paulette. What's the point I wanted to make? But writing is my passion, and I pursue it. I write children's books. I've written 6 children's books. A guy who's in labor relations, I just like to do that. And I think about it, but I love it because I just love it. So I have 6 books. One is out. I'm hoping that it gets a good response from the publisher. And I work sometimes at my desk when I'm not busy, and it's just pleasure. So don't discount that, Edward, in terms of considering that. If you're good at it and you get pleasure out of it, the thing you have to decide is if there's a market for it, okay? Because if you're thinking in terms of it from a business perspective and there's no market for it, then it becomes an avocation. And that's okay, but as long as you know that. You have a vocation, the thing that you do, usually, typically, for your business. An avocation is like a hobby, okay? It's like a hobby. Well, when you walk off the plank, I think the fish might get you. That may be too much. And I can't determine that for you or not. I mean, that's something you have to determine. But, you know, if you walk off the plank and there are sharks there, that's not a good bet. That's not a good risk. Someone once said, the greatest risk in the world is not taking a risk. Okay? I really believe that. Sometimes we are so insulated and we're just afraid of taking action, risk. You have to take risks. But you have to weigh one thing. You were shaking your head. You agree with that, Kirsten? Yeah, you have to be careful. You just have to be careful. I'm not sure that, I think my perspective is a little bit different from yours in terms of young. Yes, I agree with you. When you're young, your chances of taking a risk, the consequences are less. I would say once you get married, for instance, one of the things I wanted all in my life was go on my own. And it wasn't until essentially my kids were through college that I seriously began thinking about, and my wife was very much opposed to it. She says, you're going to do what? You're going to quit your job? You're not going to go back and get another job? I said, and I just felt so strongly about it that it worked out. I did take a risk. I had a very supporting spouse. So you do have to take some risks in life. You certainly do. Sometimes you have to take some medical risks. I've had a quadruple bypass and 4 heart attacks. Yeah, and I still travel all over the country and the world. On the 4th one, the doctor said to me, look, you can't continue having these things. We're going to have to take a chance. And we think it will work, but it may not work. Guess what I did?
Took the chance?
I took the chance. I put my trust in my cardiologist and in the medical system. And so far it's proven to work well for me. So that's almost, I was at the plank and I didn't know what to do, but I felt that I like to live. I like to be around for a while. The Carpino doctrine. Carpino doctrine. Should you always tell the truth?
No.
What do you mean?
Depends on the situation that you're in.
Should you lie?
No, I'm a firm believer in half-truths, so.
White lies.
White lies? Is being truthful the same thing as telling the truth?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me tell you what the Carpino, do you remember, there was a professor here by the name of Carpino. He's the other person, Fiorenza and Carpino were the two individuals who had really dramatic impact on my life. Here it is 50 years later and I think about them. Professor Carpino said this, truth that hurts isn't necessarily good truth. Okay? It doesn't mean you go lying, but you may have a family member or a situation where if my mother-in-law, rest her soul, she made some observations that were way off the wall. Did I correct her? Did I play along with her? Yeah, in a sense I did. And I think it made for a much healthier relationship. So I'm always, I really abide by the Carpino doctrine, is be careful about truth that hurts and doesn't achieve anything. Because if all you're doing is trying to get an individual, show them how much more you know, what have you accomplished? Nothing. So that's what I mean. I'm not suggesting that you lie in any way, because in the business world, if you guys go out there, you got to be honest. If you make a mistake, you go up to it. That's important. Whatever it is, say it. I made a mistake. I didn't know. Don't go saying, well, don't go saying it was Bob's fault, or Mary's fault, or Ashley's fault, or Kirsten's fault, or Steve's fault. And you should see how that happens in business. So that's what I mean about the Carpino doctrine. Great guy. Here it is 50 years later, and I'm quoting him. And it's not just because I'm here. I've quoted him in stories that I've written. Okay? I've quoted that idea. No, what I mean is don't spouse a truth that may hurt another person and doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't accomplish anything other than hurt that person. And Carpino used to talk about that all the time. And to this day, I abide by that. Be a first-class noticer. There's a book, and I can't remember the name of the author's book, and he talks about first-class notices. There's another book, a business book that was written, and I can't remember the name of it, okay? I was looking for it last night, but the guy says that one of the key things in the business world is to be a first-class noticer. See things beyond what other people see. And that only takes practice. It isn't something that's going to come to you. I didn't develop that early in life. I mean, it's something that I've worked at, to the point today where I'll kid around, and I'm not trying to, praise myself here. It's just the way I am. Person's eyelids are out of place, or they make a movement. It is something that I may notice. I think it takes time, and you have to work at it. As you get into different situations, again, in the business world, very important. I guess it's important in any type of walk of life. But look at what's happening. Ask yourself, is this all there is to it? Is there more to it? Don't just accept what you see on the basis of what is obvious to the eye. That's what I mean of being a first-class noticer. All the things that I've put down here, I believe, are very important in terms of, some may be more important than others, but will be helpful to you as you go forward. Okay, does that answer your question? Once upon a time. What is once upon a time?
Begins every fairy tale.
Begins every fairy tale. Okay, what did you say? Tale?
Fairy tale.
Storytelling. My sense is, as you go out to look for jobs is that storytelling is becoming more and more important. Look it up on the internet. You will see that even in some management training programs, they're teaching people how to tell stories. All right? You go out for a job interview. All right? What's typically a question that is asked of you?
Why do you want this job?
Pardon me?
Why do you want this job?
Why do you want this job? Okay? By the way, don't ever say, I'm a great person. I'm looking for just as the exact job that I'm looking for. I think it will fulfill me. Most employees don't care how you feel about a given job. It's what you can do for them. Okay? Well, let me tell you why I'm interested in this job. Back at St. Francis College, I did a number of things and then relate the story. And I think that experience and how I tackle that issue and the results I got can be applicable to your job. You're telling a story. Obviously, as you get older, you'll have more stories. But I think the issue of storytelling in interviews is very important. It's an art. As opposed to coming in with, all these statistics and just handing out the statistics. Look it up online. There are a number of books that have been written about storytelling in business. I think particularly at the beginning it's very important. Who asked that question? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean about once upon a time. Okay? I tell you, this was not going to be a traditional interaction where I come in, make sure your resume is clean. Make sure there aren't any misspelled words. I'm assuming that already. Okay? One more questions? Is that it? One more?
Yeah, one more.
Or anything else that's not even on the page that you'd like to discuss? When I was younger, I would hear stuff. I've written about this also. I would hear stuff that would raise my skin. People prejudice. It's gotten much better. I think you should take advantage of everything that you have going for you. Okay? When I started in 2000 in using my name, Juan Antonio, instead of John, which is what I had been used, a guy by the name of Robert said to me, yeah, go ahead, and I'll call myself Roberto. He wasn't Spanish. And I said, listen, I am Spanish. So what I was doing was using all the, he said, Roberto. I don't remember what nationality he was. I don't even remember his last name, but I remember him saying, yeah, you call yourself Juan, and I'm going to call him. He said, but Robert, it's here in my baptismal certificate. I'm not lying. So, my opinion, dominicano, no me diga. Yo no sabía que tú eras dominicano. ¿Dónde puedo comer una comida hispana por aquí? You like that? Sorry, you know what I said.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll tell me afterwards. No, my opinion. This is an opinion on my part. Are there going to be people out there who are prejudiced? You don't know what's in people's hearts, do you? But I'm willing to take the risk. I think today's world has changed, and I see it. I see the change. I can speak to it because of that. You don't know how many times when I was younger, people said things to me that just turned my skin upside down. Prejudice things, whether it was about African Americans or the Spanish people, the jokes. Or sometimes I just kept quiet. It wouldn't happen to them. Quick story. I had a situation. I was doing work for a supermarket company, and I always ask many questions. So an assistant manager had just finished his training program, and I said, I said, where did you work before? He says, oh, I worked for Trader Joe's. I said, really? Now, the company I was working was at the low end. They catered to the underserved market, mostly Spanish, African Americans, people who are not at a higher level of income. So I say to the guy, what's the difference between working here and Trader Joe's? You know what he said to me? He said to me, well, they didn't have any blacks or Spanish people there. Not the right answer to give me. I reported him to the business, to the management. They brought him in, and they say, hey, do you really want to work here? He said, no, and he resigned. But I like to think that's the exception. I'd rather take the risk, and again, I'm talking about myself personally. I'd rather take the risk you know, I want to think about it positively. All right, well, listen, thank you very much. This has been very enjoyable. I really appreciate it. There are a number of things here we didn't go through. As you go through your future here at St. Francis and you graduate, I want you to keep some of those things in mind. You can affect your outcome by what you do. You can affect your outcome, and you can affect your success in business by what you do. It's a question of doing it. Good luck. Thank you.